Hi there, welcome to this week's weekly Forex Forecast, Monday the 8th of November. Now, in order to access this weekly Forex Forecast, just head over to the ForexSignals.com website. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all our free content that we give away, all our position size calculators and heat maps and so forth, profit calculators. Here you'll see Forex Forecast. Click on that and it pulls up the forecast page. Now, if you want to get this sent directly to your email inbox, just insert your details there. That way it will be sent the moment it's released, so you won't be behind the curve. Busy week last week. We had lots to talk about. We had the non-farm payroll on Friday, came in pretty much in line. Dollar hasn't reacted too much since then, basically come off a little bit, maybe a bit of profit taking as we came into some big resistance there on the DXY. Also, we had the MPC, now that's the Bank of England Policy Committee. They basically left interest rates unchanged. They voted 7 to leave unchanged, 2 actually voted for a change, a hike in interest rates. That has basically seen negative outflows now for the British pound. British pound is coming under pressure. MPCs basically were reluctant to move interest rates because of the economy still not really pushing on as they would like, although inflation numbers are there to be seen. Pretty high across the board, like pretty much all developed worlds really, although it's supposed to be transitory, so we're told. Anyway, so the interest rates are left unchanged in the UK. Pound is trading to the downside. This week's kicking off, AUDNZD basically are going to be talking about their interest rates again very soon. We had a rate hike a few weeks ago. This week we got New Zealand job numbers, so markets will keenly be awaiting that. This week we have seen the New Zealand dollar push out of the gate in pole position. Basically, I think because the lockdown is now ending out there in New Zealand, and of course the economies like that as well as the economy starts to open up. So New Zealand dollar, quite a strong currency this week. This week is actually quite a quiet week in terms of economic releases. I'll show you the calendar in a moment, but not very much going on, and certainly the currency markets have stalled, if you like. But markets are definitely still in a case of risk on. Just look at the stock market. S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow, all showing huge gains and hitting all-time highs across the board. Risk on tends to have a positive effect on those commodity currencies, the Australian, the New Zealand, the CAD and so forth. Hasn't really filtered through. In fact, the Japanese yen continues to be the strongest currency out there. And that doesn't normally happen. Normally with the risk on, you expect to see the Japanese yen, the funding currency, come under pressure, that alongside the Swiss. Not happening at the moment, so it's bucking the trend. Japanese yen, one of the strongest currencies, the strongest currency on the basket at the moment. All right, let's have a quick look at what we are looking at. For those of you that have been following me for a while, I've been talking about this currency pair for a while. Aussie against the New Zealand dollar. We finally broken through that level of structural support, and now the path of least resistance is lower. That old support should act as resistance on the way up, so I'll be having my stops above that level and trying to get into the trend with the trend bias to the downside, and maybe coming in there to form that double bottom at that 102.75 level. I think it is 102.85. I've got there on the chart. Okay, also looking at the pound still driving lower. Pound against the Japanese yen. I've just told you about the British pound. It is the weakest currency, and the Japanese yen, it is the strongest currency. I'm a trend follower. I want to sell the weak currencies. I want to buy the strong currencies. I'm looking at that now. A breach of, again, that support, back up to retest, possibly for continuation lower. That's not a trade signal that you trade blindly. Got to apply your trading strategies, but that is my overall bias. But that bias can change throughout the week as well, which is why we encourage you to come and join us in our daily live streams. Okay, and Max this week, he's looking at a gold play. He's now bullish on gold as the US dollar comes under a bit of pressure, broken out through that level of resistance, and now the path of least resistance is to the upside. So Max is looking at gold. He's also on the natural gas play, as he was last week. Good call in natural gas last week, Max. Well done for that. Still pushing up, and you still like that one as well. That's now nicely continuing up in the trend that I know have been trading to the long side. Right, now let's jump on to the charts. We'll look at the Aussie New Zealand, and then we'll look at the economic calendar for the week ahead. Come on. Okay, so let's start off by looking at the momentum meter. Now this, as those that follow me will know, is basically the whole reason why I trade the Forex markets, because this is the edge that I think I have in the markets. When I look at something like this, I'm able to see instantly what are the strong currencies, the currencies that are being bought, and what are the weak currencies, those that are being sold. And as a trend follower, I like to buy the strong currencies and sell the weak currencies. Unfortunately, it doesn't predict the future, but it does tell me exactly where the money is flowing at this moment in time. On the top of the screen here, I've got it set at the 4-hour chart. You'll see here the strongest currency on the basket of 8 different currencies is this brown one here, which is the Japanese yen. You can look at the key here across on the left. Japanese yen is the strongest currency. The British pound is the weakest currency. This again is the 4-hour chart. You'll see these commodity currencies in here in the middle. That's the Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar. They're pretty much flat at the moment. The dollar has come down a little bit since the non-farm payroll last week. So the dollar is under a little bit of pressure kicking off the week. And another way that you can use the momentum meter is for basically timing of entries on the lower time frame charts. So for example, I've got 2 momentum meters showing here. At the top, we've got the 4-hour momentum meter. So this is showing you the strength in the Japanese yen, the New Zealand dollar. Pound, as I say, is one of the weakest. Now, if you drill down to the lower time frame charts, bottom of the screen, I've got the 15-minute. When you see this pound maybe pushing through, resuming its momentum to the downside, that could be a good time to start entering pound short trades. And when you see that happening and you see a currency pair diverging, i.e. going in the opposite direction, and it aligns with the higher time frame above, then that maybe is a good area to start picking a scalp in that particular direction. So using 2 momentum meters in conjunction with each other is a fantastic way to time these time your entries. And again, if you want to get your hands on this, you can do so. Just head over to ForexSignals.com. You can take out a 7-day free trial. You can try it out for 7 days, absolutely free. Right, let's have a quick look at a chart. Well, let's have a look here at the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. Okay, so what we can see here is some big level of structural support has finally been broken. We have to go back to about a year ago where we saw this bottom here, which is basically being the structural support that's been holding this move up the whole way. We got back down there again sort of in September time, broke through, came back to retest and then hit the low. And then we had this move back up to the previous level of support, acting as resistance. Now the 50% of that move, there comes in at around this structural support zone. Now we've had price action take us through that level. The path of least resistance is now clearly to the downside. Often when you see these levels of support and resistance breached, they become the reverse. So old support now will become resistance. So the right place, I think, to have stops in this currency pair would be above the 104.50 level, 104.50, 60, something like that, with the path of least resistance to the downside, and there's plenty of fresh air all the way down to 102 sort of 75 zone. So selling into any short-term bounces with that trend bias in mind would be the way I'll be looking at this currency pair this week. Okay, so now let's have a look at the economic calendar so we can plan our week ahead. I think it's really important that you know what news is coming out for the forthcoming week. Certainly if you're trading the currency markets, the last thing you want to be doing is placing a trade just ahead of a big news event, a volatile event, which could see your trade getting stopped out pretty quickly before you even had a chance to put it in the journal. So head over to ForexSignals.com, scroll right down to the bottom. This is free for anyone that wants to avail it. You'll see here the Forex economic calendar. Click on that. And you'll see here, this is basically what's out today. But again, you can take this out for Tuesday, out the next 7 days as well. Not a lot going on this week. Normally that is the case after you've had sort of a week that we've just had, non-farm payroll, of course, and what have you. We do have Governor Bailey talking today in the UK. He's going to be talking in about 6 hours' time from the time of recording. Quite important, certainly on the back of the MPC last week. They came under a lot of criticism, didn't they, for their forward guidance. So it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with today. It's red, which basically means it's a high impact news event. Anything that's deemed to be likely to have more of an impact will be red, and anything less impact will be green. So you've got some Fed Evans speaking there as well. So let's just take this out to 7 days and see exactly what is coming up. Okay, so not a lot of big news events. On the 10th, we've got some CPI out of the US. That is important, of course. That's consumer price index. It's basically inflation. It's what the central banks look at when deciding on what they should be doing with interest rates. When inflation, as we know, across all the global economies at the moment, developed world, are far surpassing their 2% targets. Looking here at an inflation rate year on year, 5.3%. Wow. Pretty strong stuff. And we've got unemployment as well later in the week, which will be interesting out of New Zealand. We've got to keep an eye on that. You know, New Zealand have raised interest rates last time out. Of course, we'll be looking at the job numbers to see how that has basically filtered through into the job markets. Of course, if the economy is bubbling away and everyone's getting jobs and so forth, that basically puts upward pressure on interest rates again going forward. So keep an eye on that, certainly if you're trading the Kiwi. And we've got some GDP out in the UK. Again, not a lot out this week. Okay, we've got some Michigan's consumer sentiment out on the 12th. And JOLTS job numbers, that's like new employment. It's always interesting, that one. Job numbers, a bit of a clue on where the economies are going as well. And that basically is it. So quite a quiet week on the economic front, but certainly worth paying attention to this if you're trading the markets. Even, as I say, if you're not trading the news, you don't want to get caught out. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Don't forget, if you want to get this weekly report sent directly to your inbox, just drop your details in there and it will be sent the moment it has been released. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you like the video, give me a thumbs down. If you didn't, don't forget you can join us each and every day on our daily live streams. We are streaming live now up to 6 times a day. We've got a new mentor joining us this week as well from the US. So that's covering now truly the 24-hour period. So make sure you check that out. Just come over, take out a 7-day free trial. You've got nothing to lose, I think, everything to gain. If it's not for you, that's not a problem. We'll see you next week. Have a good week.